The fairy tale that was actually a cage. For 14 years, the Twilight fandom has wrapped the Quileute imprinting bond in the soft, golden glow of fairy tale destiny. We were taught it was the universe's perfect alignment, a soul connection stitched into wolf blood, where a shapeshifter's heart recognizes its eternal match before their eyes even focus. We watched Jacob Black's feral rage dissolve into quiet reverence the moment he laid eyes on Renesmee Cullen, and we called it love. We celebrated it as the redemptive ending for a boy who had lost everything to the vampire coven that stole his first love. But what if this gift from the spirit warriors is actually a genetic prison? What if that soft, reverent gaze is not devotion, but surrender? What if the most celebrated love story of the wolf pack is, in truth, the most sophisticated hostage negotiation ever written into modern fantasy lore? The Cullens did not end their centuries-long blood feud with the Quileute tribe with fangs, speed, or superhuman strength. They won it with a single newborn hybrid child and a biological loophole that turned their deadliest enemy into their most unbreakable shield. Jacob Black did not choose Renesmee. He was programmed to. And that programming did not merely steal his chance at romantic happiness. It stole his tribe, his legacy, his free will, and his right to ever be his own man. This analysis will strip away every layer of romantic mythology surrounding imprinting, exposing it as a calculated geopolitical tool that neutralized the Quileute threat forever, subordinating an entire indigenous warrior legacy to the survival of a vampire bloodline. The biological injunction, a non-consensual physiological override. To understand the true horror of imprinting, we must first dismantle the romantic lie that frames it as a choice. Imprinting is not a feeling. It is not a spark. It is a biological mandate hardwired into the Quileute shapeshifter genome, a non-consensual physiological override that rewires the brain, rewrites priorities, and erases pre-existing loyalties in a single heartbeat. The Quileute legends describe imprinting as the spirit's way of ensuring strong bloodlines, but this explanation crumbles under scrutiny. When a wolf imprints, their entire neurochemistry shifts instantly. All feelings of anger, hatred, and resentment toward the imprinted person vanish completely. All previous desires, goals, and loyalties are immediately subordinated to the safety and happiness of the imprint. The wolf becomes biologically incapable of harming the person they have bonded to, and equally incapable of refusing any request that would protect them. This is not love. Love is a choice made between two equal, autonomous individuals. Imprinting is a genetic command. It does not ask for consent. It does not care about pre-existing relationships. It does not consider the wishes of either party involved. It simply activates, and the wolf's entire identity is rewritten to serve the bond. For the Cullens, this biological quirk was the perfect weapon. For decades, the Quileute pack had been their greatest threat, an army of superhuman warriors immune to vampire mind control, capable of tearing even the strongest vampire apart. The Cullens could never fully defeat the wolves. They could only fight them to a stalemate. But imprinting changed everything. By bonding Jacob Black, the pack's strongest fighter and rightful alpha, to their hybrid daughter, the Cullens did not just neutralize their greatest enemy, they turned him into their most loyal protector. The permanent ceasefire that followed was not a peace treaty negotiated between equals. It was a biological surrender. The Quileute pack could never attack the Cullens again without first harming Renesmee, and harming Renesmee meant destroying Jacob. And destroying Jacob meant tearing the pack apart from the inside. The Cullens had found the ultimate loophole, a way to end the blood feud forever without spilling a single drop of vampire blood. The erasure of autonomy, the alpha who never was. The greatest tragedy of Jacob Black's imprinting is not the loss of Bella Swan. It is the erasure of Jacob Black himself, the boy who was born to lead the Quileute tribe, who carried the legacy of the spirit warriors in his blood, who was destined to be the greatest alpha in generations. All of that was taken from him in a single glance, sacrificed on the altar of the Cullens' survival. Before imprinting, Jacob's life had a clear trajectory. He was the grandson of Billy Black, the tribe's most respected elder. He was the strongest wolf in the pack, the natural leader who had already stepped up to guide his friends through their first transformations. He was the only one who dared to challenge Sam Yuli's authority when Sam's decisions put the tribe at risk. He was the future of the Quileute people, a warrior who would protect his people from vampires, defend their lands, and carry their traditions forward for another generation. Imprinting erased all of that. The moment he saw Renesmee, the alpha died. The warrior died. The protector of the Quileute died. In their place stood a guardian whose only purpose was to serve a hybrid child. Jacob abandoned his quest for vengeance against the Cullens, the family that had destroyed his life and threatened his tribe. He abandoned his position as the pack's rightful leader, letting Sam retain control even when Sam's choices were wrong. He abandoned his friends, his family, and his entire identity, all to be at Renesmee's side. This was not a choice he made freely. This was a biological compulsion. Jacob did not decide that protecting Renesmee was more important than protecting his tribe. His brain decided it for him. The imprinting bond rewired his value system, making Renesmee's safety the only thing that mattered. Every other priority, his people, his legacy, his own happiness, became irrelevant. Even more insidious is the way the bond strips away free will. Jacob cannot leave Renesmee. He cannot choose to live his own life. He cannot fall in love with anyone else. He cannot make any decision that would take him away from her, even for a moment. His entire future is predetermined by a bond he did not choose and cannot break. He is not a free man. He is a prisoner of his own biology, sentenced to spend the rest of his life as a bodyguard for the child of his former rival. The Cullens celebrate this as a happy ending. They see Jacob as part of their family now. But what kind of family forces someone into servitude? What kind of love is built on the erasure of another person's identity? The Cullens did not gain a friend. They gained a slave, one who is biologically incapable of disobeying them. Hostage diplomacy. Renesmee as the living treaty. To call imprinting a biological accident is to miss the cold, calculated strategic genius of what the Cullens achieved. Renesmee Cullen was not just a child. She was a living, breathing treaty, a hostage whose very existence ensured the Quileute pack would never again threaten the Cullen coven. This is not a conspiracy theory. It is the inevitable outcome of the imprinting mechanism, and the Cullens understood its power perfectly. The Cullens had always known about the Quileute imprinting bond. Carlisle Cullen had studied the tribe's legends for decades, learning everything he could about their biology, their traditions, and their weaknesses. He knew that if a wolf ever imprinted on a member of the Cullen family, the blood feud would end instantly. He knew that the wolf would become their most loyal protector, willing to die to defend them. When Bella Swan became pregnant with Renesmee, the Cullens were terrified. They knew the hybrid child would trigger the Quileute pack's protective instincts, leading to a war that would destroy both families. But Carlisle also saw the opportunity. He knew that if Jacob Black, the pack's strongest wolf, and their greatest enemy imprinted on the child, the war would be over before it even began. This is exactly what happened. The moment Jacob saw Renesmee, the war ended. The pack, which had been ready to attack the Cullens and kill the child, suddenly stood down. They could not harm Renesmee without harming Jacob, and they could not harm Jacob without destroying their own pack. The Cullens had won without fighting a single battle. Renesmee became the ultimate human shield. Any attack on the Cullens would first have to go through her, and any harm to her would destroy Jacob. This meant that the Quileute pack was now contractually obligated to defend the Cullens from all threats, including other vampires, the volturi, and even their own people if necessary. The Cullens had not just neutralized their enemies, they had conscripted them into their own private army. The strategic convenience of this arrangement cannot be overstated. For centuries, the Cullens had lived in fear of the Quileute wolves. Now, those same wolves were their bodyguards. For centuries, they had hidden their true nature from the world. Now, they had an entire tribe of shapeshifters who would protect their secret at all costs. The imprinting bond had turned the Cullens' greatest weakness into their greatest strength. This is hostage diplomacy at its most sophisticated. The Cullens did not take Renesmee hostage. They took the entire Quileute tribe hostage, using their own biology against them. They did not threaten violence. They did not demand tribute. They simply let the imprinting mechanism do their work for them, and in doing so, they secured their survival forever. Subordinating the bloodline, warriors turned bodyguards. The true cost of imprinting extends far beyond Jacob Black's individual tragedy. It is the erasure of the entire Quileute spirit warrior legacy. A legacy that had protected the tribe from vampires for thousands of years, now repurposed to serve as the lifelong security detail for a vampire-human hybrid. The Quileute shapeshifters were not born to be bodyguards for vampires. They were born to protect their people. Their ability to transform into wolves was a gift from the spirits, given to them to defend their lands and their families from the cold, bloodthirsty creatures that hunted humans. For generations, Quileute warriors had fought and died to keep their tribe safe, passing down the legacy of protection from father to son. Imprinting turned that legacy upside down. Now, the Quileute wolves' primary protective instinct is no longer directed toward their own people. It is directed toward Renesmee Cullen. Jacob Black, who should have been leading the pack to defend the Quileute lands, now spends his days following a hybrid child around, ensuring her safety and happiness. The other wolves, bound by their loyalty to Jacob and the pack, are now also obligated to protect Renesmee and the Cullens. This creates an existential crisis for the Quileute tribe. What happens when the interests of the Cullens conflict with the interests of the Quileute people? What happens if the Cullens decide to stay on Quileute land forever? What happens if another vampire coven threatens the Cullens, and the Quileute wolves are forced to fight and die for them? The imprinting bond ensures that the wolves will always choose the Cullens over their own people, even if it means the destruction of their tribe. The Cullens never asked for this sacrifice. They never had to. The biological mandate of imprinting made it inevitable. They simply accepted the wolf's protection as their due, never stopping to question the morality of what had happened. They never apologized for taking Jacob's freedom. They never thanked him for abandoning his legacy. They just welcomed him into their family, happy to have a new bodyguard who would never betray them. This is the ultimate insult to the Quileute people. Their entire cultural identity, built around protecting their tribe from vampires, has been hijacked to serve the very creatures they were born to fight. Their greatest warrior is now the servant of their greatest enemy. Their legacy of resistance has been turned into a legacy of servitude. Jacob Black will never lead his people. He will never pass down the spirit warrior legacy to his own children. His children will be half Quileute, half hybrid, and their loyalty will be to the Cullen bloodline, not the Quileute tribe. The Quileute warrior legacy will die with Jacob's generation, replaced by a new legacy of service to the vampires who conquered them without firing a shot. The perpetual cycle of domesticated resistance. Jacob Black's story is often framed as a tragedy of unrequited love, but it is actually a tragedy of domestication. He was a wild, free-spirited warrior, born to run with the wolves and lead his people. Now, he is a tamed asset in the Cullens' bid for survival and societal integration, a house wolf, kept around for protection and companionship, stripped of his autonomy and his purpose. This domestication was not achieved through force. It was achieved through biology. The Cullens did not chain Jacob up. They did not torture him. They did not brainwash him. They simply let the imprinting bond do its work, and slowly, over time, Jacob's identity dissolved into the bond. He stopped seeing himself as a Quileute warrior. He stopped seeing himself as an alpha. He started seeing himself only as Renesmee's protector. This is the most insidious form of control. When the oppressed believes their servitude is voluntary, when they believe they are acting out of love rather than compulsion, they will never rebel. Jacob does not see himself as a prisoner. He sees himself as lucky. He believes he found his true purpose in protecting Renesmee. He believes the imprinting bond was a gift, not a curse. That is the true horror of it all. The prisoner does not even realize he is in a cage. The cycle will continue long after Jacob is gone. His children will inherit the imprinting gene, and they will be just as susceptible to the bond as he was. The Cullens will always have a member of the Quileute tribe bound to them, ensuring their protection for generations to come. The Quileute wolves will never again be free to be warriors. They will always be bodyguards, servants, assets to be used by the vampire coven that conquered them. This is the final victory of the Cullens. They did not just defeat the Quileute tribe. They assimilated them. They took their greatest strength, their warrior spirit, and turned it against them. They turned their enemies into their family, their slaves into their loved ones, and their greatest threat into their greatest protector. The romantic mythology of imprinting hides this dark truth from view. We are taught to see the happy ending, the peaceful coexistence, the love that conquered all. We are not taught to see the cage. We are not taught to see the erasure of a culture. We are not taught to see the tragedy of a warrior who was forced to trade his sword for a babysitter's apron. Jacob Black will live for hundreds of years, thanks to his shapeshifter physiology. He will watch Renesmee grow up, get married, have children of her own. He will protect her and her children and her children's children. He will spend eternity serving the Cullen bloodline, never knowing the life he could have lived, never leading his people, never being his own man. Is his destiny. Not a destiny written in the stars, but a destiny written into his genes by the biological weapon that the Cullens used to conquer him. To conclude, the imprinting bond in Twilight is not the beautiful, romantic destiny we have been led to believe. It is a sophisticated mechanism of hostage diplomacy, a biological cage that strips away free will, erases cultural identity, and subordinates an entire indigenous warrior legacy to the survival of a vampire coven. Jacob Black did not find love with Renesmee. He found a prison sentence, handed down to him by his own biology and exploited by the Cullens for their own gain. The Cullens are often portrayed as the good vampires, compassionate, vegetarian, peaceful, but their treatment of Jacob Black exposes a dark undercurrent to their morality. They were willing to exploit a biological flaw in the Quileute genome to ensure their own survival, never stopping to consider the human cost. They were willing to erase a boy's identity, destroy a tribe's legacy, and condemn a man to a lifetime of servitude, Also, they could keep their hybrid child safe. This is the uncomfortable truth at the heart of the Twilight saga. The most romantic moments are often the most oppressive. The most beautiful destinies are often the most cruel cages. We love stories about fate and soulmates, but we rarely stop to ask what happens when fate is not a gift, but a sentence. What happens when your soulmate is not your equal, but your jailer? What happens when the love you are destined for is not a choice, but a compulsion? Jacob Black's story forces us to confront these questions. It forces us to look beyond the romantic glow and see the power dynamics hidden beneath. It forces us to question whether any love that strips away free will can ever be truly beautiful. Do you still see imprinting as a romantic destiny, or do you now see it as the biological prison we have described? Was Jacob's ending a happy one? Or was it the greatest tragedy in the entire Twilight saga? And do you believe the Cullens were justified in exploiting the imprinting bond to protect their family, or was it an unforgivable violation of Jacob's autonomy? Leave your detailed thoughts and arguments in the comment section below and share which part of this deconstruction changed your perspective the most.